Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Yeah, this could be a semi-long one, to be honest. Trying to wrap your head around this. So, where do we begin here? Where do we begin? Satan's little season is almost over, is the name of the video. Bridgewater Triangle Explorer is the channel, 18,800 subscribers. Got a few more channels, to be honest, covering this subject. The subject is Satan's little season, as it says there. So, where we at here and what we're doing. So, a lot of people think. No, let's go with. So, yeah, like this is massively biblical. We'll start there. So, if you're not a believer in the Bible, then this probably isn't for you, to be honest. If you don't believe the Bible in essence in the startup, then you're not going to believe this part of it either, I wouldn't imagine, to be honest. But you never know, you never know. So, Satan's little season. So, in the Bible, in Revelation, basically, the tale is, and it's been kind of ignored, would be a very good way of putting it, because it is there, it hasn't been taken away. And more than one passage, to be honest, many passages throughout multiple books within the Bible, claim that Jesus Christ, Yeshua, will return. As everybody knows, that's kind of the crack. The second coming of Jesus is a very well known saying. The second coming of Jesus. So, a lot of people believe that we live in the pages of the Bible. I do myself, to be honest, but a lot of people believe we live in pages of the Bible. There's a lot of people believe that, to be fair, a lot. So, but the majority of them people, including myself, but obviously I'm making this video, so I might have come around here. I think we're in the wrong part of the Bible. Basically, everybody thinks we're not as far on as we actually are. Is kind of a way of putting it. So there is the prophesied second coming of Jesus. Now, the claim is with Satan's little season is that has already happened, and there's many passages in the Bible that allude to it has already happened. That Jesus Christ, Yeshua, has returned to the earth after he was crucified. I was going to say 2,000 years ago, but we have no idea what the date is and what year it is. They could have added years to the timeline here. It seems as if that possibly has happened. So we don't know what year it is. This is a fact. And the year 2025 AD, Anno Domini, is everything to do with Jesus, like the whole year of the world. But the year of the world is wrong. So, the theory is that Jesus has already returned. He's reigned for 1,000 years upon this earth, and a lot of some of the evidence is all of these structures around the world, all on all the continents, that we couldn't build. It links into the Tartaria thing, but I think the Tartaria is very much a cover for Satan's little season. Is what I'm getting from it anyway. After looking at this for a little bit now, I haven't made this video. I've been looking at this for a while before I made this video, just trying to get the story straight, kind of thing, and get some evidence in and see what's what and what's where. And yeah, I've looked at it now for maybe a week or two, and I've come to the conclusion that there's something in this. There is definitely something in it. There was something in the Tartaria thing, but it wouldn't quite make sense for me. I couldn't connect all the dots here. There was big holes. There was something wrong with the whole Tartaria thing. For me anyway, the mud flood. I was just having problems with it. I really was. But in essence, I thought that there was definitely something in it. There was definitely something in the orphan trains, the asylums, all the buildings that we managed to build in 10 minutes that we couldn't build now. Oh, we maybe could build now, but we couldn't build at the time that they said these were built in the time frame. Where was the manpower? Where was the materials? All these kind of things. It all doesn't really make sense when you really start looking at it. But it doesn't make sense so much in the Tartaria angle, and why would this civilization be wiped off the map and covered up? What would be the purpose of that? And people say about free energy, a free energy civilization, and it's a point. It is a point, but I don't think it's good enough. So I did have again. I'd never settled on the Tartaria thing. I definitely thought there was something in it, but I wasn't. I couldn't say that that was the crack. So I've come across this little theory of Satan's little season, which massively links into the Tartaria theory. Kind of takes it over, to be honest. But it fills in the gaps and answers all the questions. That it makes a lot more sense, this, than the whole Tartaria thing, for me anyway, in my opinion. I reckon this could be the crack. This could really be the crack, to be honest. Satan's little season. This is where we are in the Bible, and backed up massively by the world around us. We very much live in Satan's world at this point. Satan has took control of this world. He's took God out of everything. Right is wrong, wrong is right, man is woman, woman is man. We're blurring all the lines. Yeah, blurring all the lines, and yeah, to me, this is very much Satan's world, and it's getting worse. So it would make a lot of sense, to be honest, that this was Satan's little season, just on the very premise of how this world has become and what's happened to this world in the last 50 to 100 years. And the path we're going down is very much a dark path. And then again, it would make a lot of sense just on the way things are going that this is Satan's little season. So there's a lot more to it, to be honest. There's a lot more to it. There's quite a bit more evidence. Again, I've showed nothing at all here. There's many videos with many suggestions and ideas and theories that all can make quite a lot of sense, to be honest. That's the beauty of this. It's to me, the Tartaria thing wasn't quite making sense, but replace Tartaria with Satan's little season, and it makes a lot more sense, to be honest. It really does. So we'll get into it and we'll see what you think. Again, there's multiple. I'll have to probably make multiple videos, or this is going to be a real long video. I don't know what this video is going to say particularly. It's just got a bit of an intro, so I thought it could try and sort of explain this crack a little bit better than I have, and how passages within the Bible have sort of already stated that Jesus has returned. And he came back pretty much not long after he was crucified. He's not waiting 2,000 years to come back. He came back in the time when all the people were alive who were alive when he was crucified, and he says that in multiple passages. I will return before this generation passes away, is one of the lines, and this was said when he was 33. And again, I will be returned before these generations pass away. So he's returning in the next sort of 50 years, which in the proposed year of his return was 70 to 77 AD was the return of Jesus, kind of backed up, to be honest, by not just the things he said. Roman Empire, possibly, I forgot the name of the I was going to say Herodotus, but I don't know if it was Herodotus. Two Roman Empire chronicle people basically sort of documented the return of Jesus. Like, that's the beauty of it. We've ignored that as well, it would seem. So, yeah, that's kind of the crack, that Jesus has already returned. He's reigned for 1,000 years on this planet. And after the 1,000 years reign of Jesus Christ, this is all in the Bible, after the 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ, Satan will be released again He had been chained in the earth for them 1,000 years of Jesus Christ's reign. And after that reign, Jesus basically goes away, and Satan gets a little run. He's Satan's little season. He doesn't get 1,000 years, as Jesus did. Some people are sort of theorizing that a season, if we're going off 1,000 years, we have 4 seasons. A season will be about 250 years. As we've seen on the front of the Economist there, it's the 250th anniversary of America next year, or tomorrow. Tomorrow being next year, not the 4th of July is what we're looking at again on that magazine. But 250-year anniversary, that's a quarter of 1,000 years. Again, Satan's little season. The times that we're in, everything seems to be escalating to a point of collapse and catastrophe, possibly a World War III. There's a very good, again, if you kind of followed where we've gone so far in the journey of knowledge here, and you're not really new to this, and you've followed the crack, this will make a lot of sense, to be honest. This Satan's little season will, I mean, to me, from what I've heard in the last couple of days, this is ultimately the answer. This is the answer, the ultimate secret, that this is the big secret that is trying to be kept from you. We are in Satan's little season. Jesus Christ has reigned on the earth for 1,000 years. It's the beauty of people not believing in it all. He actually was here and reigned. And yeah, he goes away after the 1,000 years, and I'm trying to really get my head around what happened at the end of them 1,000 years, and was everybody taken away, all the believers, and the non-believers left. And again, there's a crack that all the people who died before Jesus was ever a thing, in history, if you weren't born in the time of Jesus, and never knew Jesus, if you were born before him, at the end of the 1,000-year reign of Christ, everybody will be resurrected in Satan's little season to play again and get the chance to play the game correctly, learn the rules, and understand that Yahweh is the one true God. And if you want to play this game in the future, you must play by the rules, and the rules are not Satan's rules, they are Yahweh's rules, Jehovah, the one true God. And that's ultimately the game here. That's what it's happening here. This is the final test. The world will end at the end of all this in fire. There will be no earth. After this, there will be a new heaven and earth, is what is proposed. All this will end, and this world is finished after Satan's little season. And if you play the game correctly and you understand the game, and you will play by Yahweh's rules in the future, you get to play again. Is ultimately the tale here, but I think there's a lot in this, and there's very much a lot within Satan's little season here. Again, I'm just mentioning this to you is a good way of putting this. Go and look into this for yourself. There's plenty of videos and people out there talking about it. Not a lot of people though. It's very, very small sort of community. It's only sort of getting out there, to be honest, the information. So you sit where you want. Always do what you want. Always think what you want. Always, but what you think might not be right. Yeah, look into this for yourself. There's a lot of videos, and it's just people talking, and they're very good, to be honest, and good information. But I've kind of kicked this one for now, just because it's got a bit of a visual at the start here, and a bit of an intro, sort of building you up as to what could be going on here. Well, there's a lot of backing to this. Even there used to be an island called the Land of Jesus up until about the 1800s, and then the Land of Jesus was on maps. I'll put that in this video before the end of it. There was maps with the Land of Jesus written on the maps, and over sort of around the time of the 1800s, when all this sort of changed and something happened, as the mud flood is, I don't think it was a mud flood, but around that time, something definitely happened to the world. Um, and this is about the time we removed the land of Jesus from the maps. Again, the actual timeline, as in the 24-hour clock, doesn't work with the time zones they've removed. It's crazy, to be honest, but we'll get to that. We're jumping ahead here. Right, let's have a little bit of a listen to this. Get the gist of what the fuck's going on here.
Your true history has been hidden from you, and in this presentation, I will show you evidence that the millennial reign of Christ already happened and why this information was kept secret. This is the greatest cover-up in the history of this realm, and it all started when the official story of our past began to change. But the part you haven't heard is why that change was made. And once you see the proof, it will change the way you see everything.
Yeah. Again, you've. This is like, again, I couldn't stress how sort of, if you haven't figured out that something happened in the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s in that region, this is kind of linking into the economies and everything as well. Like, all these economies have been built after all this cracks happened, and they're all been built to fall, and they're all been built to fall about now. It's very much the world, our world, didn't start till about the 1700s, the 1800s. Something happened. Again, this is proposing, and I think it's a very good theory, to be honest. It was the end of the millennium reign of Christ. That's who built all these absolutely amazing structures all over the world, in a time when we didn't have electric or any tools or anything at all, apparently. No, we had 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ on the earth. There was no wars of any kind. For 1,000 years, there was peace and prosperity, and for 1,000 years, people did make things great, like brilliant. Like, look at the structures around the world. These people were building all these marble column buildings that still exist today, because they're only a couple of 100 years old in reality. That's what was being done on the earth in the time of the reign of Jesus Christ. There was no wars. Things were amazing, absolutely amazing. Knowledge, again, the knowledge of stone. I mean, again, you've got the Freemasons, right, who pretty much have controlled the narrative of our world for a very long time. Masonry. They didn't build any of this stuff. They found it. It was free. They found it. Freemasonry. It was what was left after the millennium reign of Christ, when everybody had vanished and was taken away, all the believers, and basically everybody that didn't believe gets a run in Satan's little season for the opportunity to play this game and believe and play the game correctly and play the later game. This is really probably what is happening now. This is the test, the final test for everybody that didn't get born when Jesus was actually alive or in the 1,000 years of Christ. So if you never knew Jesus, you are ultimately thrown into Satan's little season for another opportunity. There's a very good chance all of us people have lived before at some point in time. But we never knew Jesus and we didn't play the game correctly, so now we get another opportunity to play the game again. So that's kind of what we're doing here, and this is the end, the very end of the Bible. Yeah, it all ends in fire at the end of Satan's little season. Again, may very much sound like a bad thing, but not. It's not if you can wrap your head round that all this is true. Jesus is true. Yeshua is true. It's all true. People have been resurrected before and many times. The saints. Again, this all links in. I've got a place near me called St. Bees. It's actually called St. Bees. And I've got very, very strong inkling that during the time and the reign of Jesus Christ, St. Bees was very much a location for a saint. He perhaps resided there, or it was sort of one of his sort of stop-off points on a pilgrimage from the land of Jesus. Again, I'll show you this land of Jesus on the maps, on literal maps of the 1700s. There's a place kind of up the north, called the Land of Jesus. I mean, this links into Father Christmas, a man who lives in the north, who knows if you're naughty or nice. Um, I mean, it's madness. It's madness in many ways. Probably not as mad as the dragon video yesterday, to be fair, but madness in a different way, of a different sort. So, throughout the world, you've got all these, like the Vatican as another example. The Vatican building itself, absolutely amazing, beautiful building. How they built that back in the day, I would never know when you really look at the building. But the answer is it was built in the millennium reign of Christ. Like, again, there was no wars, there was no. Everybody was for the good and to prosperity and to succeed, and that's what people did, and that's what they built all of these things, and yeah, that's kind of the crack. That they were in the wrong place in the Bible. Everybody believes we're waiting for Jesus to return, but ultimately Jesus has already returned, reigned for 1,000 years, went away as it says he will in the Bible. Satan will get his time on earth. To ultimately play the game again. Well, that's all we're doing here. We're playing a game for your soul. Will you make it to heaven, or will Satan deceive you in his little season? And yeah, you've got to choose ultimately. And even yeah, well, you'll have a judgment at the end of this. That's the crack, and you will be tested upon on what you know, what you've done, etc., etc. It's kind of the crack. This isn't my tale at all. The tale that's been here long before I ever got here. So yeah, but this is the tale, and from what I've seen and learned and looked at in the last couple of weeks and months, and starting with Tartaria, but I was never, and I've mentioned this before, I've just couldn't have it. I just, there's something was wrong with it for me. There was something wrong with the Tartaria thing. Not that there wasn't a place called Tartaria, but the whole Tartarian Empire, free electric, I don't think that's right. I think it was a 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ Empire, and there was possibly people against him still on the earth. Maybe these are the people left behind that then ultimately took over and rewrote history for us to where we are today. So, yeah, this is kind of the crack. We're going to have a look at it. I would watch more videos if I was you, if you really want to kind of understand this. I will not get everything in this video. I'm just basically telling you the premise here, that the Satan's little season. And for me, I think we definitely do live in Satan's little season, to be honest, when you take a look around the world and everything that's happened to the world in sort of the last 50 to 100 years, as Satan's power, if you want, gets stronger as time goes on, as he deceives the nations. But if you're not a believer in God or Jesus or the Bible or any of this will all be nonsense to you. But ultimately, I'm going to say you'll be proved wrong in the end. Like, you will. That's the problem. I mean, you'll never believe that. Again, the atheists, the blockage. It's the atheist blockage is the. It is known. It's this blockage that will not let you believe in gods and magic, if you want to call it that, and things like that, because you've seen it in Hollywood, and it's in Hollywood, and it's not something that you've seen in reality. But that's very much the nature of Satan's little season. He's trying to deceive the world into you not believing in God or Jesus, Yeshua, and ultimately he'll get your soul. So if you see any magical wonders or any of these kind of things, you'll kind of go to the right side of the fence here. So he's trying to make you disbelieve in it all. That's kind of the game here, you know what I mean? He needs to make you disbelieve in all of everything, all of this, all the Bible, everything that's happened. You need to not believe. So that's what's going on. He's trying to make you not believe in Bible, the gods, all of these things. And very much because it's Satan's little season, he's very much in control. And everybody, all these ruling people work for him. That's really truly the crack. We mentioned this. They are Satanists. They believe he's going to win. He's convinced these people that he's going to win this now because he's got the world, and we have weapons of ultimate destruction here and power, and yeah, it doesn't matter. He's going to lose. So, hold on.
We are living in strange times, but the world is waking up to the fact that we exist in a fabricated reality where history doesn't match the evidence being presented to us. The official narrative and what we were taught to believe about the Bible and our past is beginning to unravel. The leaders and teachers we trusted to tell us the truth about where we came from and where we are going have led us astray. The pastors who were supposed to lead the flock to safety are turning out to be Judas, and they have sold us out for 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah, that's very much true. We've been sold out. These people are Judas. We've been sold out for silver, for money. Again, they've promised, they were promised all the riches. And look at the world, look at the rich people, you know what I mean? I mean the really rich people. So they're sold, very much sold their souls. And again, whether they were already like left behind, these families, again in Satan's little season, and there was like a rapture of sorts at the end of the 1,000 years, and everybody was taken away, and Earth was left kind of barren. I mean, this links into the orphan trains and all the empty cities around the start of the 1800s. I mean, we had that crack as well. We had 3 years with no summer around the 1815. Something happened at that time. I mean, California used to be an island as well on the maps. As another thing with the Land of Jesus maps, there's islands. California's an island in the 1700s. Like, it's predicted in the film Escape from LA, Escape from New York, Escape from LA, where the becomes an island and becomes a prison. Well, on the maps of California in the 1700s, it was an island. The sea level seems to be slightly higher at that time, and the sea level maybe has gone down, and it is no longer an island. It's connected to America. So there's a lot of strange things in this, and a lot of dots to connect, to be honest. And yeah, sorry for we've only got a minute into this video. I'm trying to kind of explain it in ways with things that we've went through, sort of thing. So enough's enough of me talking shit, I suppose. Let's see what the video says. But yeah, we've kind of been sold out by the powers that be, but that can pretty much be proved. Again, we've had this crack about them all being Satanists. Again, Satan's little season, Satanists kind of links together. We are actually talking about an entity called Lucifer, who is a man in essence. He's not a red little being. Yeah, well, we really are talking. All this is true, like you'll get your answer. I mean, you will find out at the end of this game. You will ultimately find out that all this is true. I'm not talking nonsense here. This is all true. This is what this entire game, this game is about. It's all about this. It's just about this. There's nothing else to this life and game and world. Ultimately, it's just all about this. It's about the Bible. That's ultimately all this world was ever about. From day one to day dot to the end day, it's all it was ever about, the Bible and everything that happened within the Bible. And you will ultimately find that out in the end, because that is the truth. That's all this was ever about. And there is a judgment, and in the judgment you will ultimately be explained to you that that's what all of everything forever was about. It was about the Bible. And what happened at the start, it was a shit show from the very start, and it was a shit show right the way through, to be honest, except for the 1,000-year reign of Christ we mentioned there. That was the good bit. So we missed it, right? We missed it. So we were born before it, and we've been resurrected, the possibility to have another go at this game, because we never got to know Jesus. And this is our opportunity, and if we fuck this up, yeah, we're done for here. You're done for, and we never get to play again. And I don't know, I wouldn't mind playing in the future world of no wars, and again, what we see, what we can see, the remnants of the thousand years of Christ, all these buildings. We got a taster here of what it could be, but we missed it. So you've got to play correctly here to get to play again. Is ultimately the story here. Ripley's Believe It or Not, very much every day of the week. But yeah, do what you want. But let's get into this and see where we are.
The evidence is mounting that Jesus kept his word and returned as promised and reigned for the 1,000-year period called the millennial reign. We are now living in the period few have ever heard of called Satan's short season, aka Satan's little season, or what I call the age of deception, because that's exactly what it is. Now let's talk about the movie The Matrix. It was a science fiction movie from the late 1990s. At least that's what they want us to believe. It was actually a documentary.
I'm just skipping it forward a bit. You guys on about The Matrix, the film, for ages. Now you're in a minute. Yada, yada, yada. Fucking, if you don't know that by now, then you're fucking stupid. So, yeah, you just guys on about the film The Matrix for ages, which, yeah, it's now to summit in terms of trying to explain what the fuck we're talking about here. So I've skipped it forward.
Do you think we are in the end times, or do you think it's a little tricky to say declaratively we are in the end times?
Jesus.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk there. I think not even Charlie Kirk kind of knew this crack. This is, in a way, this is the secret. I kind of feel, I think that this is right, that everybody's waiting for Jesus to return here. He's the second coming, and that's not the way of it. Like, that's not what's going to happen here. He's already been. We're in a far worse place. Like, Jesus has already been. And we didn't get to meet him, so we get to play this game. But this is a tough game because there is no Jesus. Yeshua here. It's all memory and research. You've got to look into this. Like, I can't stress enough. Yeah, we've been born in the final game here. The toughest part of this is the tough game, mate. It really is. As I say, there's no Jesus here for proof. You've got to look for the proof. You've got to understand the game and the world and look around you and learn for yourself. Again, this could be very much the test. Do you know what I mean? We maybe already failed the test once, or yeah, and we get to play. We've had the opportunity to play again, but nobody said it was going to be an easy game.
Jesus uses this language of birth pains. And what Jesus says is that just like people are born again, history will be born again. And that it's like birth pains. The closer you get to the birth, the more intensity, the more frequently, and the contractions.
The tremors increase societally.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure,
and then out of the greatest pain comes new life. If you believe in Jesus' analogy, the closer we get to the end, the same things will be happening with more intensity and frequency. And so every generation is thinking we must be at the end because this is the worst it's ever been. Well, it's the worst it's ever been for us. And it may get worse and it may not.
Yes.
But I think if we look at it right now, you'd have to say that at some point, human life on the earth is going to either come to an end or it's going to be delivered from itself.
Sorry for all the dramatic music and the thing. It's like I'm not one for it. To just tell us the crack in many ways. I was just thinking, watching that, and people watch all these Hollywood films and all this, like every film you can imagine, and the world we live in is far greater than all of these films. When you really wrap your head round the world we live in and what's gone on. Yeah, mate, like the world's none of these films come compared to the real world and what's really happened on this world. So, yeah, you seen there Satan cast into the pit for 1,000 years, right? Apparently all this has already happened, like literally all this happened on Earth. It's all gone by. The Bible's kind of told you that as well, like it's happened. So we need to get into somebody actually telling us the crack here, you know what I mean? Right, here we go. Somebody actually telling us the crack.
Make it a habit.
Fucking honest to God, YouTube's adverts, mate. Again, the decline of the world into Satan's little season. Money, 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 advertising, advertising, money, 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 money. War, war, poverty, poverty, war. Yeah, I do think this is the true crack, to be honest. I think this is the missing link in a way, that this is the final piece of the information that makes everything make sense, from Tartaria to history to the current climate to everything, to be honest. It makes a lot of sense. And even maybe the current Israel, like the current Israel probably isn't the Israel spoken of in the Bible. Do you know what I mean? It's a deception. And again, Israel being put back in the land, well, we done that. So is somebody trying to falsify biblical prophecy to make you believe you are in a different time, and you are in the time when Jesus is supposed to return, but he already has. You know what I mean? And again, they're sort of putting biblical prophecy forward, putting Israel back in the land, but that is not the Israel of God. This is the Israel of Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you know what I mean? So it makes a lot of sense, all this. It really does.
53, and this is from the New Living Translation, and it reads, "At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people." Now, this is, to me, this is just, it's crazy, because this is a major event, right? Probably one of the most significant and relevant events in the New Testament, yet we hear very little about it. And I'm going to play a small clip right after this that illustrates this event. But the significance of this is that it reinforces the idea that, number one, supernatural events are common in our world and on earth, and not just in the heavenly realm. And number two, that the whole idea of godly men and women being raised from the dead by God was not as rare of an occurrence as everyone thinks.
Yeah, he's right. Again, like miracles and stuff that like happen a lot and all this kind of crack, but they don't happen now. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, we live in the time when all this has kind of been put to bed, because the minute you start seeing miracles and wonders, you're going to figure out that everything I'm saying and the Bible says is true, and Satan is trying to deceive you here into not believing any of this. So you very much live in a world where he's made all these wonders and things, like Hollywood, you know what I mean? But that's just because, I mean, he doesn't have the power that Jesus, Yeshua, does. He cannot perform quite the same feats as God and Jesus, do you know what I mean? But he can perform certain things. But ultimately, he doesn't want to, I would say, because it gives the game away. This is all about deception, do you know what I mean? Making you believe there is no God, or the God's Allah, not Jehovah. You know what I mean? It's deception city on this planet. That's the crack here. Literally deception, deception. This is very much why it very could be Satan's little season, because he's taken over the world in many ways, if you know what to look for. So Matthew, the book of Matthew here, we've got Matthew 24 knocking at the door to Johnny Cash. Again, could Johnny B. Cash just have got it wrong, like all these people have? We're in a different place in the Bible. Everybody's read the scriptures wrong here. They haven't read them properly, because these scriptures do tell you that Jesus came back and reigned in many ways, as we'll find out here.
So it shouldn't be hard to accept, and this is for the debunkers of the little season also, it shouldn't be hard to accept that Jesus and the saints rose from the dead, appeared to many people, according to the Bible, once before, and we should not have a hard time believing that it happened again in 76 AD. I think Matthew chapter 27, verses 51 through 53 are some of the most overlooked and underrated verses in the Bible. Let's take a look at this small clip.
After Jesus' crucifixion, the Bible describes an extraordinary event, the rising of many holy people from their graves. Matthew 27 verses 52 to 53 states, "The tombs also were opened. And many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised, and coming out of the tombs after his resurrection they went into the holy city and appeared to many." These resurrected saints were likely believers who had died prior to Jesus' death, now risen to life to bear witness to Christ's victory over the grave. While the Gospels don't provide details on what happened to them afterward, we can imagine the profound impact their sudden...
So that's kind of the crack, really, that we're in Satan's little sea. I need to move to a different video, because this whole video is already long enough. But it's a lot's explained. A lot is explained in this, so well, maybe I have to continue forth and have to make another video, to be honest. But so a lot of book burning has been done in history. People might know books have been burned. This could have been what's been being burned. Like, a lot's been burned. Well, it's maybe the proof of what really went on. Do you know what I mean? But it's kind of like, sorry, I was having a drink. It's kind of still in there, but it's massively overlooked for some reason. But again, Satan's little season, deception. So, making us believe that we're in a different part of the book. Yeah, I mean, again, the ultimate game is make you an atheist, and then he's won. Do you know what I mean? The next step down is then deceive people upon the scriptures. You know what I mean? If you can't get them all to be atheists, then we need another level of deception here. So I think there's a lot in this. I think there's a lot in this Satan's little season, to be honest. Again, not that I can explain in this video, and this video can explain in the video. There's a lot more to it. You really do have to kind of start looking into this yourself, is my point of making this video.
While the Gospels don't provide details on what happened to them afterward, we can imagine the profound impact their sudden reappearance must have had. Did they return to their families? Did they preach the good news of Jesus' resurrection? The text is silent, leaving us to wonder at the mysteries of this miraculous occurrence. But one thing is clear, even in death, the saints who rode were not forgotten.
This is day one of my husband doing Tai Chi.
Honestly, the adverts on YouTube, mate, I swear to God, like, they're unreal. I can't get 2 or 3 minutes before I have to fucking have another advert. I don't know how people are putting up with it, to be honest. I don't know how people are putting up with it. I consider fucking YouTube off.
Okay, now before we get into the actual timeline, we need to discuss the Roman historian Flavius Josephus, because he documented some very miraculous events in between 70 and 76 AD when I believe the second coming of Christ happened. And it's important that people know about these things, because they do add proof and they do verify that prophecies were fulfilled. And this guy had nothing to gain. He wasn't Christian. He just reported what he saw. He documented actual events that took place. And yes, they were miraculous, but they were historical events. He was a very well-respected historian. So let's take a look at these next few clips. I think you guys are going to find this very interesting, and it adds more evidence to the realization that they lied about our past. Christ kept his promise. The millennial reign happened, and we are living in the short season or little season of Satan. Okay, here.
Yeah, and it's got to be said as well, if this be true, and Jesus Christ did reign here for 1,000 years, the first thing Satan is going to do is cover up history, because ultimately, again, this is a game. This is the final game for your soul. Now, if you believe in Yeshua, Jesus Christ, and he died for your sins, is the tale. If you believe that, you've won, right? That's it, you've won. So ultimately, you now need to not believe that. So if we all knew that Jesus reigned here for 1,000 years of peace and prosperity, then you're going to believe in the man, because he ruled here for 1,000 years. That would very much be part of history. So stage one, upon the beginning of Satan's little season, was to systematically destroy history. This is where the whole Tartaria thing comes in, and what really is going on with that, in my opinion. It was the start of knocking these buildings down, as many have. I was going to make a video the other day. It was a video of London and some of the buildings that were knocked down. These magnificent buildings with columns that were absolutely beautiful. And we're only 20 or 30 years old, apparently, according to the building dates. They knocked them down after 30 years. Like, it doesn't make any sense, to be honest. This was old world architecture they were getting rid of. They didn't get rid of it all. The Bank of England is old world architecture. We still, some of these things still exist today. We didn't knock them all down, but we knocked a lot down. A lot have been knocked down. But the majority of the ones remaining were repurposed as sort of government or official places, again, like the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, like Wall Street, and all these kind of places. Like, all these buildings were repurposed. The ones that remain, and are usually 99% of the time, government buildings or palaces, but all of these buildings were not built by us. They were built in the millennium reign of Jesus Christ, when there was no wars or anything at all, and everybody could just crack on and be prosperous. And that's what happened, and people built amazing things that are still here today, that we could maybe have a crack at today, but we could not have built them in history when they said, with the tools that we had. Something else was clearly going on at that time, and this pretty much is probably the answer. It was the 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ. Miracles were very abundant. Again, the Son of God was here on earth for 1,000 years. Again, there's some backing to this, like the land of where we get into the maps of the 1700s and the land of Jesus. Again, you could maybe Google that for yourself now and just go and have a look. The land of Jesus in the 1700 maps, and then by the 1800s they started to put unknown lands, and then they've just pretty much removed it now. But there possibly could still be land there, and they've just lied to us about it. There's a beauty of it as well, because the time zones don't work. Is a massive clue to there being a missing part of the map. The time zones do not work. There's 3 hours of missing time. So some very, very clever people have figured this out. They really have. It's took a while as well. It's had to go through the sort of Tartaria thing to get here. But I believe the Tartaria thing is very much a cover for this, the Satan's little season, in my opinion.
Here we go.
Flavius Josephus also documented many supernatural events in Jerusalem before and during its destruction. He wrote, "The deceived and faithless ignored clear signs of impending doom, such as a sword-like star, a year-long comet, and a supernatural light. Despite these warnings, they remained blind and indifferent to Jesus' prophecy. A heifer giving birth to a lamb in the temple, and the miraculous opening of a heavy temple gate were misinterpreted by the ignorant as positive omens, while the learned saw them as omens of impending disaster. There was also a strange event involving chariots and soldiers in the clouds, and during the Feast of Pentecost, the priests experienced a shaking and heard an invisible crowd urging them to leave."
So that's a Roman chronicler who's documented history. And again, there's some again, he wasn't a Christian. There's some amazing claims in there, and again, this man and many other people like him are considered, like, that's how we know history. Do you know what I mean? So why are we going to believe bits of what they said and not other things? You either believe what they said or you don't believe. So the general consensus is we believe what these people said. So as he said there was a few things happened. There was a comet for a year. There was a star that looked like a sword. The temple gate, which was a massive bronze door about 12 foot high, but completely made of bronze, and it took 12 men, I think, to actually shut this door. It was so heavy. The door opened itself. A door that it took 12 men to shut opened itself. A heifer was born in the temple. A few of these things, all documented by this man. The biggest of which was chariots in the sky, and soldiers in the clouds, like the armies of the Lord were rousing in the clouds here. Yeah, this is documented by a Roman historian, so to speak. So, I mean, again, it's kind of like the evidence is there that Jesus came back. He promised he'd come back, and why would he wait 2,000 years? He came back, he reigned for 1,000 years, and now we're in the aftermath of this situation. That's kind of the crack. So we'll crack on a bit more and see what else is said here.
Josephus also talked about soldiers in the clouds. So at the time of Jerusalem being destroyed, there was literally soldiers in the clouds, gleaming golden soldiers, chariots of fire. This is a Roman historian. This is not some fiction writer. Flavius Josephus is one of the most respected Roman historians, especially as far as Christians go. He's often cited in order to prove the Bible is correct. So he writes all these things. And I said, this is the conspiracy theorist in me, I guess. I can't help but say this is why? Why, oh why, do we have to read about these things from Josephus instead of the Apostle John? If you're of the belief that John wrote the book of Revelation in 95 AD, 25 years after the temple was destroyed, why don't we have any accounts from anybody who had any connections with Jesus that what he said about the temple in 70 AD all came to pass? Does that make anybody else suspicious?
And I just have a table here of the miraculous events of the first century.
Yeah, well, it's kind of been covered up in many ways, and the beauty of it is it hasn't been covered up. It's just been ignored, and then again, this is proof that all the churches and the priests and the Vatican and everybody who pretends in our current world to believe in God and Jesus, they're all actually working for the other team, and this is very much Satan's little season. And he's took control of everything, the church and everything, and he's deceiving left, right and centre. He's not telling you the crack. Again, the Nephilim kind of been removed as well from the Bible. It's basically all got covered up, but at the same time, it hasn't been. It's all still there to be read. It's just people aren't reading it properly, it would seem. But for me, it's as if Jesus came back in 70 AD, approximately 40 to 50 years after he was died. He came back in the same generation and reigned for 1,000 years to 1070 AD. The theory is we've added 700 years, 700, to the timeline to make it 1770, and from that date forth we have changed history, deleted all knowledge of this 1,000-year reign, or what we could. I mean, this started 250 years ago, this deletion of history. We are very much living in the deleted history. It was deleted long ago. The buildings were knocked down. It was all covered up. Every city had a great fire to cover up and destroy many things that alluded to what we're talking about here. So again, you can look into that. Every city having a major fire in sort of the 1800s. The orphan trains, the asylums, something was definitely going on and being covered up. The asylums could have been people who knew the truth, would not accept that there wasn't 1,000 years of a reign of Jesus Christ, and perhaps you were putting in an asylum because that needed to be covered up and that knowledge gone, that Jesus Christ reigned for 1,000 years. And by killing off, many wars happened as well in that time. So having many wars to kill people off, asylums to put people in, and systematically destroying all the buildings, or the majority of them, to cover up the fact that this ever happened. I mean, there's a strong argument for all this. It's not all in this video, and you know what I mean. You're gonna have to look into this for yourself. But this is just kind of the crack, really. And this is the Roman people, both Tacitus and Josephus, both recording these events, the door opening, the bronze door, temple opening, and things like that. It was recorded by multiple people. So this is kind of the crack. I mean, this is a very long video. It goes deep and deep and deeper. And I mean, maybe get to this bit and it can just kind of explain where we are, possibly. Probably
75% off.
Oh, what a surprise. Get a YouTube advert for our trouble here. 75% of something. Who gives a fuck? Don't buy anything off YouTube adverts out of principle because there's too many of them now. Right, so here we kind of have the crack. So I'll play it and I'll maybe talk you through it.
A lot of research. He backs this all up with scripture, and this is the timeline that shows where we are, and it also explains the various different levels of time that was added to our timeline. And this is just groundbreaking, and I think this really fills in more of the holes for the people who are confused about, well, when did this happen and how did this happen? If if certain things didn't take place, how could this have happened? Well, this puts it all in perspective. So let's hear what Tom has to say. Here we go.
So I'm going to do my very best to just try and approach one thing at a time and keep us focused on the timeline of things. But I'm going to start with Matthew 24. And the reason for that is Jesus had conversations with his disciples about what was to come. And he had some of those conversations with them prior to the crucifixion. And this one happens to be very close to that because he was actually 2 verses after this, or I should say 26, Matthew 26 as opposed to Matthew 24. He was having the Last Supper. So this is just shortly before the Last Supper that he had this conversation with his disciples. As Jesus was leaving the temple grounds, his disciples came along and wanted to take him on a tour of the various temple buildings. Now, this is in Jerusalem. But he told them, all these buildings will be knocked down with not one stone left on top of another. So he was referring to the destruction of Jerusalem. Now, keep in mind, he was 33 years old at this time. AD stands for Anno Domini. It does not stand for after death. It stands for Year of the Lord. So at the time...
Right, so that's a bit of new. I thought it was both, to be honest, and BC before Christ. But yeah, it is Anno Domini, which means Year of the Lord, not after death. So that's a very, again, people are wrong on that. I kind of was myself, I suppose. So yeah, it just means Year of the Lord. So again, something that people are wrong on yet again. So he goes through it here. I mean, this video is running long, you know what I mean? So basically, well, fuck, you'll have to play it, really.
The time in which he had this very conversation, Jesus was 33 years old, okay? And the destruction of Jerusalem happened sometime between 70 and 76 AD. Now, the Bible does not tell us the exact year that it took place. So, unfortunately, these dates do not come from the Bible, but it is generally accepted that this is the time frame in which the destruction of Jerusalem took place. Now, this is also when Jesus had his second coming. Now, this is incredibly important to know because this scripture here, I'm going to read to you, is in reference to him coming back, okay, for his second coming, which is synonymous or associated with the destruction of Jerusalem. And this is all very, very important, given the timelines that we'll need to follow so we understand the time that we're living in. When will this happen, the disciples asked, as he sat on the slopes of the Mount of Olives. What events will signal your return and the end of the world? Now, they're referring to the end of the world in their context, the end of the world for them, not so much for us, because obviously this was a long time ago. But I want to point something out to you real quick, and I want you to just kind of set this aside And just remember this. One of the verses, or what he mentions here in verse 15, which is shortly after verse 3, which I just finished with, he says, "So when you see the horrible thing told about Daniel," and I'll follow up on that later, Daniel's the prophet, the horrible thing standing in the holy place, what he also refers to as the abomination, you will know what I mean. So he's referring to a structure, a statue, what he calls the abomination. And he says, as soon as you see that structure, you will know that the end of times, my second coming, is going to be happening soon. He then goes on to say, now he's going to describe what's going to happen, and I'm not going to go into all of the verses on that because there's a lot of them, but I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of what he says here. For as the lightning flashes, let me get this tilted up here, across the sky from east to west, so shall my coming be. When I...
Right, I'm going to leave it there because the video's fucking an hour long, really. And it's just sort of, I'll say a brief explanation, but the video's an hour long, so it's already fucked that up. A kind of an explanation of to what Satan's little season is, and the general concept of it, I suppose, and it sort of links into the Tartaria thing, but for me it makes a lot more sense than the Tartaria thing. It's as if the Tartaria is a bit of a cover for this. It explains a few things like the orphan trains and sort of repopulating the asylums, all the cities having fires, all the structures that dismantled and the ones that still remain, but how the fuck did we build them back in the day when we didn't have tools? Like all this, there's questions there. There was definite questions with the Tartaria. There were things weren't quite adding up with history, but it makes a lot more sense, really. As mad as that sounds, it makes a lot more sense that this is the crack. And again, but it links into the Bible and the scriptures, as he's saying here, and what's actually been said. And it's kind of been said that Jesus returned already and done what he said he would do and reign for 1,000 years. But the next part of the crack is Satan's little season that follows a short period of time where Satan gets his time on earth. And I think that's very much what we're in, looking around here, you know what I mean? So, again, no, it's not a definite here, look into it for yourself, but I kind of think there's something in it for me. This video is quite long, so I'll make more videos on this subject. There's one with the land of Jesus on the maps I'll make. It's quite interesting, to be honest. And just a few more things sort of linking together and more ideas and what's gone on. I mean, I would maybe, if you want to come and watch the rest of this video on Bridgewater Triangle Explorer, but there's quite a lot of this video to go, do you know what I mean? And a lot's explained in here, and again, timelines and all sorts of things. That, again, it's just too long. I mean, I'm half an hour in and I've skipped bits, you know what I mean? But it took me an hour. So, again, if you want to watch the video, come Satan's Little Season is almost over. Bridgewater Triangle Explorer. A couple of other channels cover the same thing. I'll bring forward another video soon about the map and Land of Jesus. And all the maps with that on. Again, madness, but that's what it is. The time zones are wrong, but nobody's seemed to have noticed till now that the time zones don't quite work. So there's a lot in it, to be honest, but there's kind of evidence for some things amiss here, you know what I mean? Well, I'll leave it there for now. Peace.